Hello, welcome to Elite Weather. My name is Mr. G. I am your meteorologist today, and we're going to be talking about that weather forecast. This is something new I'm trying here. I bought the StreamYard software and I'm trying to use it for the first time. So this might be really sloppy as I get used to it. It's really cool. It's different than when I'm used to using OBS, but I'm using StreamYard and I'm should be broadcasting on Facebook and on YouTube. So I don't know if anybody's watching this. The schedule went wrong. I was supposed to schedule in for 5:30. It just said you're scheduled at 7:30. But anyway, we're going to get started with that weather forecast, and you are watching Elite Weather. My name is Mr. G. I am a student meteorologist, and I am pursuing my degree, my Bachelor of Science degree in meteorology, and I have plans to continue to a master's degree in meteorology and geosciences and environmental science. So that's a double master's degree, and that will be with Mississippi State University online. And eventually, I plan on pursuing a PhD in land and atmospheric science at the University of Minnesota. So I have a lot of years of school ahead of me, and eventually, hopefully soon, as I pursue my bachelor's, I can gain employment with the National Weather Service or NOAA in some way, shape, or fashion. We'll see how that all works out in my future, and that's my future plans. And a little bit more about me for those of you who may not know me, if you stumble onto this broadcast. So you may I just dropped my clicker, but anyway, it's got a dying battery, so we won't be using it. So um, oh, good. I am live on Facebook. I have to. Looks like I'm the only person watching it, but it's experimenting here. I don't know how good this is going to be. Let's see if I'm live on Facebook as well. Right now, I see a white screen on Facebook. So let's see what's happening on Facebook. Uh, So, oh, okay, there it is. It is live on Facebook. Oh, look at that. No watchers, but that's okay. I'm experimenting with this. This is practice. But this is a real weather forecast, and we're going to just go ahead and do this thing. All right. So, we're going to get started. I usually have a segment. My forecasts are usually called Weather Today, and we're going to be talking about the weather today as well as the next 30 and 35 days ahead into the future. And our first thing that we are looking at right here is going to be our 500 millibar height. This is our upper atmospheric pattern. And what we're seeing is that troughing in the atmosphere right now. And we are actually looking at it from the 17th. So this is currently going out through the 17th and 18th. And what we're seeing is that high pressure continuing to be in the Four Corners region. So we might see periodic rounds of monsoonal moisture over the next several weeks as well. But you can see that troughing in the east. So very pleasant conditions across the eastern half of the nation. We can even see a couple of times where we have temperatures in the 50s. Here is that current weather system that's bringing cooler weather across the upper Mississippi Valley and the Great Lakes and into the Northeast. And we're going to see that, guys, spread on off over into Canada over the next several days. We're going to be seeing so conditions improve across the state of Texas as we're going to start to dry out, cooler weathers. As you can see, those cooler temperatures coming down out of Canada as we have that ridge of high pressure. And this is about the 21st. So as we get into the 21st, we're going to really see things cool off across the eastern half of the nation. But it's going to continue to remain warm across the west, especially the Pacific Northwest. We do have a couple of weather systems that will be out over the Pacific, and it's going to be going mostly into British Columbia. As you can see there, that guy kind of dissolves as it rounds the top of the ridge. So you see our western ridge is going to be go riding high up into Canada. But you see this low pressure center, now we're looking at about the 18th as this cycles through, and you see our ridge across the four corners. So we'll continue to see some monsoonal type moisture get caught up in this flow here. So we're not completely done yet with the monsoons. There will be some brief iterations of monsoonal moisture down here through the desert Southwest as we go on through the coming weeks ahead. And we have this troughing in the east. So we have that pretty much that La Nina pattern that's going to continue. However, signs are indicating all right. So now let's see what's happening. So I hope that we're back and we're live again on YouTube and Facebook. I'm gonna give this another shot. I think we're running now, so let's go ahead and I'm gonna do this weather forecast here. Thanks for watching me. If anybody's watching, I think there's a Michael Moody is on. I don't know if it's still a black screen or not. What I'm seeing here, it looks like it's running, but let me see if I can see it on Facebook. This should be running on Facebook, and I don't know. Let me message my wife, and I don't know. Anyway, but anyway, okay, it's good now. Somebody said it's good now. All right, so let's go on with this weather forecast here. And this is the weather today. I am Mr. G, your meteorology student that's doing this. This is helping me practice the craft at delivering weather forecasts because who knows? One day I might end up on a television station. I need to be good at this. So, all right. So here we go as we look at our first map. This is our 500 megabar heights with the wind currents as well. So this is the upper air pattern. We're talking about 6 kilometers up from the surface. This is what we're going to be seeing aloft in the atmosphere. So right now we're dealing with an area of low pressure that's over the Great Lakes that brought some rain to Minnesota and is currently bringing a lot of rain through portions of Wisconsin. We're seeing it raining in Wisconsin and Michigan. We can see some heavy rain across that region tomorrow that could lead to some flooding as well through the upper Mississippi Valley and into the Great Lakes. But also some much cooler weather is dropping all the way down into Texas. As you see this guy right here, this is where we're seeing on the 13th. So you see that low pressure. It's going to wind its way up into the northeast and into New Brunswick, Canada, and on off into the North Atlantic, maybe affecting Greenland. But here we are. We're going to get into a long wave pattern here and a little bit more troughing. So we're going to have a reinforcing shot of cooler weather here across the plains and the Great Lakes and into the Northeast. It's also going to cool off down across the state of Texas, the Gulf Coast. We're going to start to see things dry out there. You see how that pattern is going to the south. You see everything is dropping to the south. So it's going to start to push some of that moisture that we've been seeing coming off of the Atlantic, inundating the southeast and the southern coast with rain for the last 2 months. We're finally going to see that change in that pattern, at least temporarily, that we're going to see things dry out tremendously across the southeast and cool down. We're going to lose a little bit of the humidity as well. We're going to see this ridge of high pressure across the four corners try to kind of half-heartedly reignite some monsoon moisture. We're going to have this guy spinning off the west coast out here. This is what we're seeing currently today, but this guy is not going to really amount to much. It's going to bring a few showers to the Cascades through portions of the northern Rockies as well, but it's not going to amount to much. It's going to shear apart as you see it, pretty much disappears and gets caught up into that long wave pattern across the northern tier of the nation. And that's good. I'm glad somebody can see it. It looks like a monsoon fest well, it's not really. It is picking up moisture from the same region where the monsoons flow, but there's not a whole lot of moisture being pumped in from the Gulf because we have that southerly flow from the north, from Canada. It's shutting off a lot of that moisture fetched from the Gulf of Mexico. So even though that high pressure is still in place and where it can pump that moisture, but that supply of moisture is being cut off. So there still may be some hints at it wanting to start up the monsoon. You can still see some thunderstorms through the Rockies here, through Nevada, and into the far eastern deserts of Southern California. You still might see a few, but it's not going to really take hold. We're not going to see a reignition of the monsoons because we're seeing its source for moisture effectively being shut off by this Canadian high pressure. So that is a look of what this is going to go through the 27th of June. So as we head into the first couple of weeks of fall, we're certainly going to see fall-like conditions in the Northeast, the Great Lakes, the upper Mississippi Valley, and through portions of the Corn Belt. We're going to see fall temperatures start to take hold. So as we look at the tropics, as we've had an abysmal tropical season with very, very dry weather conditions, we have not seen any much in the way of tropical. We had a couple of tropical systems over the course of this week. We had Danielle and we had Earl. There was a couple other tropical waves that have dissipated. They're non-factors. They're not going to develop anything further. There's nothing there. The Hurricane Center is no longer tracking anything in the Atlantic. As you can see on this map, over the next 2 weeks through the end of September, the 27th or so, nothing. This is these guys here are actually related to what's left. This is Danielle. This is what's left of Hurricane Earl. And in fact, I saw forecast that was predicting Earl to become a major hurricane and affect Bermuda. Now, it did brush Bermuda, but it never materialized into a major hurricane. In fact, winds never got over 90 miles per hour. So it remained a Category 1 hurricane throughout the 3 days or so that it was a hurricane. The biggest problem that we've had in the Atlantic this year has been that the pattern over North Africa has been such that it's been blowing a lot of dust, have come off the coast of Africa and have all the way and have come through the Caribbean to the Gulf of Mexico. And it essentially has created it has created a trough it has created a capping over the atmosphere. So it's kind of made a mid-level layer of dry air, which has inhibited the thunderstorm development across the tropics. Thunderstorm development goes into the development of tropical storms and hurricanes. Well, we didn't have that tropical storm, that thunderstorm development really kick off or really be able to materialize because of that dust in the mid layer of the atmosphere. So it capped the atmosphere. Even though the Hurricane Center is still saying that, an above average, no, I don't see. No, there's no way. It's too late. We're heading into the mid-September. We're going to be into October, unless somehow the tropics explode. It's been a lot of the systems over the East Coast, like that frontal boundary that's prog to be over the southeast, and that front is going to extend from the northeast, from the Great Lakes region out over the Atlantic down to the southeast and come back overshore over Florida, right? With systems that far out, with extratropical mid-latitude storm systems have been traversing this region pretty much all summer. It kind of creates a blocks and protects the U.S. East Coast from tropical storms. So we're not going to see really any tropical storms. Now, that new pattern that we're kind of going into is going to be a brief. I don't think that pattern is going to hang on. Maybe a good week or two, maybe 10 days. But that pattern could open the door for something tropical coming on shore to the U.S. But we first need something tropical to develop in the Atlantic first. And I don't see that happening. Even though conditions would be favorable for a tropical system to affect the U.S., but we're just not having the favorable conditions for tropical systems to develop. Now, as we're looking at this map and we're seeing about the 25th, this is the Bermuda High. Now, you see the Bermuda High is way over to the east. So if anything was to develop down here, it would turn to the north really soon. So we need the Bermuda High to swing over back toward the west. That way, if anything develops off of the Cape Verde Islands, which is here, and travel this way, it would be south of the Bermuda High, and then eventually is able to affect Florida, the southeast, or the Caribbean, and go into the Gulf of Mexico. But with the Bermuda High being as far to the east as it is, as you can see here, this is the Bermuda High. As you see it so far to the east, anything that develops is going to turn to the north well before it affects the United States. So here we are as we take a look at our prediction for rainfall for the next, this is going to be through the end of September. And you can see that mostly dry conditions will start to prevail across the Gulf Coast. We've had tremendous amounts of rain across the Gulf Coast, but as you look at the next 2 weeks, mostly dry along the Gulf Coast. A little bit of moisture tries to flare up over in Mexico about the 20th to the 22nd or so. We do get a little bit about the 25th, a little bit of rain along the Gulf Coast and even into Texas, a little bit of development down there. But you can see the main focus for precipitation is going to be in this region here, the upper Mississippi Valley, the Great Lakes, the Northeast, and the Mid-Atlantic. You see we're getting these West Coast systems, and they're traversing across the U.S.-Canadian border to the east. Then there it is, developed really kind of, there's been a lot of troughing across this region. See, the systems get to the Great Lakes, and they really intensify. As you can see, it's kind of disheveled. It gets to the Great Lakes region, this region here, and really just a lot of energy. It picks up a lot of energy and moisture off of the Gulf and the Gulf Stream here as it moves into the Northeast. So that's where a lot of our precipitation is going to be over the next 2 to 3 weeks. So a lot more rain over the Great Lakes in the Northeast. Still occasionally along the Southeast, Florida, but for the most part, the Gulf Coast is going to dry out, Texas is going to dry out, and the Northwest is going to continue to be mostly dry. We're going to see a lot of minor systems affect the Pacific Northwest, but not a whole lot of, not much in the way of meaningful rainfall is going to be expected across the Northwest. You get this guy here that's going to come about midweek. A lot of this is monsoonal, but you see this rotation here, a little bit of a weather system gets going. It's what's called an inside slider. This guy is going to come on shore at Northern California and hang out in the Great Basin, Utah, and then lift toward the upper Mississippi Valley. You see how it's going off to the north and go into Canada. But again, mostly going to bypass Oregon and Washington. Some folks on my TikTok channel have been asking, where are we going to get any precipitation in the Northwest? But unfortunately, not much. You might get a little bit, but not much. Now, it's not going to relieve your drought situation in any way, shape, or form. So here we are now as we take a look at our severe weather potential. Here is our current storm system that's going to be moving to the Northeast about the 13th and the 14th. Here is our flare up across the four corners. This potential here for some severe weather or thunderstorms, not necessarily severe weather, but thunderstorms. Our potential for thunderstorms through the Midwest, the four corners, across Texas and the Gulf Coast. The atmosphere will be ripe for thunderstorms. This doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see thunderstorms. It just means that the atmosphere is ripe for thunderstorms. And you see this here. There's not a lot of thunderstorms taking place in that storm system. A lot of general rainfall. There are thunderstorms along the frontal boundary, but at the main low itself, not a lot in the way of thunderstorms, but a lot of just general rainfall we're seeing with that system. And then about the 18th and 19th, another system will affect the eastern half of the nation into the Great Lakes, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast, and it'll have a frontal boundary again. And then we'll see that surge of tropical moisture along the Gulf of Mexico about the 27th, near the end of the month. And that potentially could be something tropical. We'll have to see. but it's not indicating a tropical storm or a depression, but a tropical wave can come by about the 27th and will bring the potential for thunderstorms South Texas and along the Gulf Coast states. So that's our thunderstorm outlook for the next 2 weeks. So we're going to see a dramatic decrease in that as well. Here we are with our temperature anomaly. And this is interesting because of the warm bias that we're going to be seeing through the center of the nation. As you can see here, through September, no, this is through from now through October 15th, the next 35 days, we're going to see a warm bias through the Midwest and the North Texas, through the Midwest, the nation's midsection. But as you can see, through the mid-Atlantic and the Southeast, Southern Texas here, cool bias, below average temperatures across the Southeast. But we're going to see some areas here across the Northern California and even into Southern California that's going to be slightly below average to slightly below average. It's going to depend a lot on altitude. So if you're here is the Sierra Nevadas, there's a lot of mountain ranges down through Southern California, Arizona here. We're going to be seeing, even though it's still going to be warm, but it's going to be slightly below temperature, the average temperature. But a very mild fall, early fall is going to be on tap for the Midwest and the Northern Plains and the Great Lakes. So, and this is not indicating that it's going to be extremely, it's really about 5 to 9 degrees, maybe 10 degrees above average, especially here through the Dakotas and Nebraska, slightly above average, because this is where it tends to get cooler first. So we're going to see a warmer bias through mid-October here through the, according to the GFS. All right. So that's a look at the temperature anomaly. And this is your departures above or below from normal. Here we are with our snowfall. All right. We're coming into the fall. So I'm going to start talking about snow in some of these forecasts and what the GFS is predicting for us to see as far as snowfall by the time we get to October 15th. Look at the date at the top of the screen here. October 15th, the zero Z. So this is about noon. This is not in the meteorology, that's a synoptic thing. That's not meaning that it's midnight. That's actually noon, the 0Z hour. So, and that's on the East Coast. So by the 15th of October, we anticipate having at least 10 inches of snow in the Northern Rockies. So we will already see snow in the Rockies potentially by the time we get to October 15th. So Wyoming, Montana, Idaho could potentially see snow. They're potentially for at least an inch of snow through the portions of the Northern Plains, North, South Dakota, Nebraska, even in northern Minnesota, have the potential to have picked up a dusting to an inch of snow by the time we get to mid-October. All right. So that's the snow potential. Now, this is what the GFS is predicting that we could see. All right. Here is our height, our number. This is the barometric pressure at the 500 millibar. So the upper levels of the atmosphere. Here's our upper air pattern. And between now and October 15th, we're going to have a bit of a high amplitude, amplified pattern here over the next few days. But as you can see, as we move through, it goes kind of fast here. But as we move into October, you're going to start to see a long wave pattern. See how it flattens out? No strong ridges, no deep troughs, but a general east to west long wave pattern. It's a fast pattern. So we're going to see a lot of weak weather systems move from west to east really fast across the nation. So we're not going to see any extreme heat waves or cool downs. A very mellow, fast east to west. Doesn't mean we won't see rainfall, but it just means we're going to see quick heating systems for about a week or two or so as we have that long wave pattern. So that is a look at our, okay, here is our teleconnections. Now this is the deterministic the Arctic oscillation. We call it the AO. Now this just shows us, when you see where it dips below this line right here, this indicates that a stormy pattern is going to be expected for the eastern U.S. So the Northeast, the Great Lakes, the Mid-Atlantic, the upper Mississippi Valley. This means that we could see a stormy pattern when we hit the 11th through, we can see by the 16th of September. So about mid-September, it's going to be a cooler pattern and a stormy pattern. And that's that storm system that we're dealing with right now. That's that storm system. So the teleconnection sees it. So this is verifying that forecast. So we're seeing that storm right here, that trough. That's that troughing. Now a weak ridge will build in place about the 21st, and again about the 24th through the 25th of September. But if you look at this, it drops down, goes negative. So the AO goes negative again about past the 27th as we head into early October. The AO goes negative. Now this can change, but as of right now, we saw a negative AO back at around the beginning of September because we saw a lot of storms and things like that in cooler weather. And again, it went neutral and it went negative because of the current storm system. All right, so that's the AO, right? Now here is the PNA, the Pacific North American pattern. This is looking at the ocean currents and the upper air currents. So this is giving us, again, that look at how volatile the West has been. The northern, this is the Pacific Northwest, the Northern Rockies, California, Nevada. This is the West Coast. You see how volatile it's been, how very positive the PNA has been through early September. But as we get into the 11th today, you see it's kind of neutral. It's not stormy. It's just kind of ho-hum. It's just humming along. We have storms nearby. It's about average right now. See, it's going to be slightly positive through the 16th before it goes negative. So slightly negative. So that means there's a potential. We have that storm system that's coming on shore in California, right about the Oregon and California line. So that guy is going to be making unsettled weather conditions through the northern Rockies and the Northwest. So a little bit unsettled as we head into about the 21st of September. You see then it goes way negative. So there's that indication there that there could be a fairly sizable drop in the temperature or storm about the 26th or so, but then it goes way positive. So that means another ridge builds in out west. This is really unsettled, and I'm questioning the validity of this here and that there. I'm questioning that, and sometimes the GFS might be a little bit on the fritz. So, but we'll have to see that. But I question how negative that is going to go, because the trend has been for it to be positive, because we're continuing to be in that La Nina pattern. So I question whether or not that is going to really go that negative. But that positive, I'm not doubting that pretty much, because we've been consistently positive. So, and I think we're getting near to the end of this broadcast there. Now, here is the GFS with the main surface level pressure and precipitation over the next 20 through the 27th of September. So through about the end of September, we're seeing that moisture either along the southeast or across the northern half of the nation. You see how those storm systems are moving into Canada. See how it lifts up into Canada? It might brush the Cascade Mountain Range, but you see how it kind of shuffled, go across, and then kind of energizes as it drops down into the Great Lakes. They come across the U.S. Canadian border. They ride on. Look. You see the blue? That's snow. So we're going to start to see snow potentially along the U.S. Canadian border, the Northern Rockies and the British Columbia, the Southern Rockies of British Columbia. So we're going to start to see the potential of snow as we get to the end of September, early October. So that's not unusual for that part of the world. But we're seeing high pressure in control of the east through about the 16th. Another area of low pressure comes across the northern tier. Here we have one off the mid-Atlantic. That one goes out to sea. And then we get another one across the upper Mississippi Valley and the Great Lakes. So another round of showers, possibly some thunderstorms. We're not seeing much in the way of severe weather, so that's a good thing. But we're going to be seeing that potential for those periodic rounds of showers and storms across the northern tier of the nation and into the northeast, as we're seeing a lot of troughing. So even though at the surface you see a southwesterly flow, but again, if we look at the upper air pattern, you'll see that trough. So you're going to see areas of a lot of shearing because that's air changing direction with altitude. So we're seeing a lot of that. So we're going to see those thunderstorms across the mid-Atlantic and into the northeast. So a lot calmer weather for the next coming few weeks here as we move into the month of October. I'm not seeing any drastic storms, no major heat waves over the next several weeks. It's just going to be kind of ho-hum. It really is. It's going to be fall type weather systems, gentle to moderate rains, not a lot in the way of tropical development. As you saw earlier, the tropics are dead. It's pretty much dead for the next couple of weeks. It could explode in late October. We'll have to see sometimes areas of resurgence. And then we'll start to see systems in October develop in the Gulf of Mexico and in the Southern Caribbean. We start to look down around Colombia and Paraguay. You start to look down that way once the Cape Verde season ends. So that is a look at that as far as the long range weather forecast. So to recap, nice weather pretty much across the nation's midsection in the short term over the next few days. Very pleasant, calm conditions, comfortable temperatures, a little bit of rain across the Great Lakes. So if you're in Wisconsin and Minnesota, not Minnesota, you've already had that rain. But if you're southeastern Wisconsin, like Milwaukee and in Detroit, Michigan, Traverse City, Pontiac, if you're in north central of the peninsula, the lower the boot of Michigan, they call it. You might see that rain over the next couple of days, and it's going to spread into the northeast, right? You'll see a kind of a resurgence of monsoon moisture across the southwest. Some of that moisture is residual moisture from Hurricane K that's kind of gotten sucked into the overall flow down there. So some of that moisture is hanging out. So they're seeing that. And you do have a weak weather system across the Pacific Northwest and the Northern Rockies that's tapping into some of that moisture as well. So we might see a few thunderstorms up that way, but it's not going to be a drought buster. So don't get excited if you live that way and if you're a farmer or anything like that. No drought busters in the near future. So, and then a long wave pattern and things are going to just be kind of ho-hum. Warmer than average across the northern half of the nation, a little cooler than average down across the southeast. Doesn't mean it's going to be cold. Excuse me. But it will be slightly cooler, a bit more comfortable, lower humidity as well. So, well, that's going to do it for my first test broadcast using StreamYard. I kind of like it. It's a little bit more complicated to set up than OBS is, but I can stream on Facebook, YouTube. I can do it on any other streaming. I can do multiple streams on different platforms at once. This is my first time doing that. I think it's awesome. I love it. And maybe it'll help my YouTube channel grow, but we'll see how it goes. But anyway, I'm gonna shut this down now. Thanks for watching me. Michael, thanks for watching. You've been a good chatter. I really appreciate your interaction and your chats that you've been leaving here. My number one fan, I guess. Right on, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate that. At least somebody watched, and I wasn't here talking to myself. So thanks for joining me. I'll try to do one of these every weekend. I need to practice with the software, get used to doing this. So, all right, I got homework to do and go hang out with the wife for the rest of the evening before we get ready for school and work on Monday, okay? Thanks for watching me, and I'm going to click in here and see if it ends when I ask it to. All right. Thanks, guys, and have a good evening and a good week ahead.